name is Anna, and I'm 32 years old. For 8 years, my life was what most people would call normal, stable, predictable, and filled with the kind of quiet happiness that comes from sharing your days with someone you love. I had a job I enjoyed, a cozy home, and a husband, Daniel, who I thought was my forever. But as I've learned, life has a way of shattering even the most carefully built illusions. It was a regular evening. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner, waiting for Daniel to come home. He'd been late a lot lately, and though I tried to push the nagging worry aside, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. When he finally walked through the door, his face was serious, his usual smile absent. He didn't kiss me hello or ask about my day. Instead, he sat down at the table and said the words that would change everything. "We need to talk." My hands started to shake and my heart raced. I put the spoon down, my fingers cold and numb. "What is it?" I asked, though deep down I already knew. Daniel looked down, avoiding my eyes. "I don't love you anymore," he said, his voice quiet but firm. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. My throat tightened, and I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. "What?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I'm sorry, Anna," he said. "I didn't want to hurt you." I stared at him, my mind racing. This was the man I'd loved, trusted, and built a life with. How could he just stop loving me? I wanted to scream, to demand answers. But no words came out. "I met someone else," he continued. "It wasn't planned. It just happened." Tears filled my eyes and my hands clenched into fists. "It just happened," I repeated, my voice trembling. "No, Daniel. Love doesn't just happen. Betrayal doesn't just happen." He sighed, his expression pained. "I'm leaving." And just like that, my world fell apart. Daniel packed his bags while I sat on the couch, watching him through a haze of tears. He took his clothes, his books, his watch, pieces of the life we'd built together. I wanted to scream, to throw his things out the window, to beg him to stay, but I did nothing. I just sat there, frozen, as he stood by the door. "I'm really sorry," he said again. I didn't answer. I couldn't. He sighed, opened the door, and left. The sound of his car driving away was followed by a deafening silence. I sat there, numb, until the pain hit me like a tidal wave. I cried until my body ached, until my throat burned, until I had no tears left. And then I sat in the dark, alone. The next morning I woke up and, for a brief moment, forgot. I reached for Daniel's side of the bed, only to find it empty. The reality came crashing back, and the pain hit me all over again. I got up and wandered through the house, each room a reminder of what I'd lost. His empty chair at the table, his coffee mug in the sink, his slippers by the door. Everywhere I looked, I saw him, but he wasn't there. I went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. The woman staring back at me was pale, her eyes red and swollen. I didn't recognize her. I touched my wedding ring, still on my finger. I couldn't bring myself to take it off. Not yet. The days that followed were the hardest. I stopped eating. Food had no taste. I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him. At work, I pretended to be fine. I smiled at my coworkers, answered emails, and went through the motions. But inside, I was broken. People told me, "You'll be okay," but I didn't believe them. Nights were the worst. The bed felt too big, the silence too loud. I held my pillow and cried myself to sleep, wondering how I'd ever move on. One day, I went to the store. As I walked past a coffee shop, I saw him, Daniel. He was sitting at a table with a woman. She was young, beautiful, and laughing at something he'd said. He looked happy. My stomach dropped, and my hands felt cold. I wanted to run, to scream, but I just stood there, watching. Then he looked up, and our eyes met. For a second, I saw something in his face, shock, guilt, pity. I didn't wait to find out. I turned around and walked away. Tears burned in my eyes, but I didn't cry, not this time. I walked fast, then I ran. I ran until my legs hurt, until my heart felt like it would explode. When I got home, I locked the door, sat on the floor, and finally let the tears come. But this time, they felt different. This time, I knew Daniel was gone, and I had to move on. The next morning, I took off my wedding ring. I made myself breakfast, drank coffee, and sat by the window, watching the sunrise. It still hurt. It would hurt for a long time, but I wasn't going to let this pain destroy me. One day I would be happy again. One day I would wake up and not think of him first. One day I would love again. But today I would survive. If there's one thing I've learned from this experience, it's that life is full of difficult moments, but every ending is also a new beginning. No matter how hard the pain is, time will heal and new happiness will come. To anyone out there going through heartbreak, I want you to know this. You are stronger than you think. The pain won't last forever, and one day you'll wake up and realize that you've made it through. Until then, take it one day at a time. Cry when you need to. Lean on the people who love you, and remember that you deserve happiness.